Hi guys, welcome back to another video. As you've seen by the title, this video is going to be how I created my dream life in 2 years. And if you're watching this, I can take a little hint and assumption that you are probably looking to do the same thing yourself. I'm sure you probably feel like, oh my gosh, how? How is it possible? The good news is that it is completely achievable. There's nothing super different about me. Before we get into the video, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. And yeah, let's get on with the video. It's kind of like a pinch me moment because like so much has unfolded and changed in the space of 2 years, which is pretty wild. I sit here before you having spent just under 2 years creating a life that I could not have even fathomed would have been my reality in my wildest dreams. And not only were these like lifetime ambition goals, this is something that I've achieved in quite a short space of time. And the beautiful thing about what I'm about to tell you is that anybody can achieve this. I should probably give some context first. I always like to call it the origin story. I found myself at the start of my, what I would like to say, like growth journey, in probably the lowest point of my life. If you guys have followed me for a while, then you're probably sick to death of me talking about it. To summarize, I was in a massive, I would say, rock bottom. I had finished university, gone through a huge breakup. I'd been with someone for 6 years, and that was just like earth-shattering for me. I had decided that the career I was working towards was not aligned with me, and that was a really hard decision, and my mental health plummeted. Everything's getting the best of me. I just don't have motivation to do anything, and I just don't really care. And it's like, so it isn't me, and it's just like embarrassing me. I remember feeling just a complete and utter head block. I remember days where like I couldn't get out of bed, and I feel a bit emotional. I remember days where I couldn't get out of bed and just, oh gosh, I'm so sad. I'm like 4 minutes into the video and I'm already getting upset. I just was really at a rock bottom, and I remember feeling like I had like no way out, and that these feelings were like forever feelings, and just being like, what do I do? Where do I go?
Just do one chapter, and when that chapter's done, it's done. We'll move on to the next one.
I just really now, 2 years on, having made it out the other side and tenfold, I really feel so much like empathy, and I feel so much like love and compassion towards that Sydney 2 years ago. I always kind of was able to picture this dream life, and not so much even the dream life, but like the kind of person and the kind of woman I wanted to be. And it was a very kind of similar vision that I'd had since I was a girl. I just had certain like traits and characteristics that I just really wanted for myself. And I think I'd got to this point where I hit that rock bottom where I was so far from that girl. And I remember just thinking, how am I going to be her? First things first, you need to get really clear with your intentions and your vision. You'll be surprised. This requires a lot of focus and working out like, where do I see myself going? What are my goals and my aspirations? Who's the kind of person that I want to be? Just like all those sorts of things. Start making lists, writing out goals. A vision board is really helpful if you are quite picture focused. You know, someone's dream life and your dream life may look very different. Someone's ultimate life would be to be like super minted, living in a mansion in LA, and someone else's dream life might be like having a family, living a really small, quiet life in a little country like cottage. You really need to understand and like work out what lights you up. Try to look beyond what people think success is and what people think the dream life is, and like, what do you? I remember thinking like, what does Sydney actually want? Like, really, what does she want? That's the first step. And in some ways, it's one of the harder ones for sure. I want you to understand that this process is not an easy one. If it was an easy one, everyone would have their dream life. And it's totally achievable. Just because it's hard to do doesn't mean you can't achieve it, but it just requires like discipline, consistency, authenticity, like I've already mentioned. This is a journey and it's not a race. In some ways, you never ever really finish the journey, the healing journey, the growth journey. It's going to be tough, and it's going to require you to meet parts of yourself that are really hard to be with and to confront. Nothing worth having isn't worth like taking your time for, really working at. You've got your plan, you now need to action it. And the first place I want to start off with is just taking care of your health, but particularly physical. This is something that like I had definitely neglected. I'd really got to a point where I was not taking care of what I was putting into my body, how I was fueling my body. I wasn't working out at all. When I was in a really low point, I remember my parents always echoing to me, go exercise, get the endorphins flowing, just to get like the feel-good hormones going around. When you are exercising regularly, you're going to be healthier because you're moving your body and you're getting the endorphins flowing. But not only that, you start working on these other things that are absolutely crucial in creating your dream life, such as discipline, consistency, showing up for yourself. A really big factor of this whole journey for me was exercise and everything that comes with it. Like I really hadn't been like that level of disciplined. And like to begin with, it was literally notes in journals. My goal is to just consistently go to the gym. But in doing so, I was learning so much. I was learning so much about like what it actually means to dedicate yourself to something. Another thing that came with exercise was the confidence. And I guess this could go for anything, starting a new hobby or putting yourself out there in terms of experiences. Pushing myself out of like my comfort zone grew my confidence tenfold. This meant that I could apply it to other situations in life. Like if I am able to walk into a part of the gym that I felt uncomfortable in, or if I'm able to lift something that I thought there's no chance in hell I'm going to be able to lift that, then what else can I do? And you'd be really surprised by how easily the skills like that you learn through exercise and through putting yourself out of your comfort zone transfer over into life. And all along the journey, I got comfortable with feeling uncomfortable. I was such a shy girl as a child. I would sit at the side of a swimming pool or I'd sit at the side of gymnastics and I'd sob and I'd cry. I really struggled with like new experiences. It's been such a process to just feel the fear and do it anyway. Every time you push yourself out of your comfort zone, there's a new parameter and there's a new thing that you thought that you couldn't achieve. And so, you know, I've gone from being that shy little girl that like sat on a side of a pool crying to now health is so important. The next thing I think is really important is to become observant and to observe who am I letting into my life, who am I letting see and have access to me. This is something like I really never like considered until I started this whole journey, and I'm sure everybody's heard that thing of like, you're an average of the 5 people you spend the most amount of time with. And I think it's so true. I think it's so true. I mean, I always say this, I was talking to my sister actually and she said, God, you always say that. And I'm like, yeah, because it's so true. There's 2 kinds of people in life. There's radiators or there's drains. And you really need to like take note and kind of think about like, am I around people that are radiators and that light me up? And you know, all of these things are things that I didn't realize. There's no issue in like letting go of relationships that no longer serve you. We are ever changing and ever evolving. I'm not saying cut everybody off, but I'm just saying really be aware of what your circle is and how they influence you. This kind of leads me into my next point, which is be aware of what you're consuming. We live in a tech-filled world. We are surrounded by so much content and we consume so much of it. These apps and things are supposed to be addictive, like they are made, they have teams to make it as addictive as possible so that you stay on it for as long as possible. Take note of who you're following. Take note of who you're inevitably seeing every day. The reason I set up my fitness account in the first place was because I really wanted to be involved and like surrounded by that sort of content that would keep me on the track that I was planning, you know, to go along. I hadn't really like found my feet with what I wanted to do, but I just knew I wanted to like live a happier, healthier life. And so I started like following people that did that. We are so impressionable as people, and just really like be aware of what you want to stop consuming, but also start consuming things that you probably haven't up until now. So start reading books and start listening to podcasts and just absorb as much information as you can. I really got into like manifestation, working on like lack mindset. I've never really kind of had money until now, and that was something that I really overcame through like listening to girls. One podcast that literally changed my life and had such a profound impact on me, I recommend it to anyone, would be the To Be Magnetic Expanded podcast. They just helped me in so many areas of my life, and what I would do is I would drive. I find long drives really like meditative. I get into like a really good headspace with it. Same with walking. I would just walk a path or a route in the countryside that I know really well. I'd have my music in and I'd just listen to this podcast and like zone out. When I kind of made the decision like, okay, cool, I'm gonna work towards like this girl I want to be, it was a daily thing, and I chipped away at it daily, and I didn't have expectations of like knowing all the answers and getting to like being a Gymshark athlete. I didn't know how that was going to be, but for me, for example, my goal was like, okay, let's start off small. So like, let's just work on like self-betterment of actually exercising and like that sort of thing. So break it down and just like work through it piece by piece. Something that I would recommend to everyone and had such an amazing impact on me was receiving counselling and therapy. And I know this is like super expensive. It's so unfortunate that it's expensive because I believe that everybody should receive counselling. I actually at the time had no money. I think I was either jobless or I was working as a nanny, and I had like literally like the bare minimum coming through per month. I know certainly for the UK, I don't know about other countries, I'd imagine there's probably similar things, but definitely look into receiving counselling through a charity, because there are charities out there, and they, the one that I went with, they offered in-person counselling for 6 months. I ended up doing weekly sessions, and you pay what you can afford. It was so just transformative, and I can so see the growth in myself and in the way that I think about things and I approach things, and it just like offers you this space to talk to somebody who's completely unbiased, detached and removed, and helps you kind of work through and make sense of the world around you. And especially if you are trying to like shift your reality and make some big changes, I just highly recommend it for anyone. And if you really were going to spend money on anything, I would recommend spending it on like therapy. I think if I hadn't resolved these things, I would definitely not have kind of been on that like higher path to creating this life for myself, such as self-worth, self-love, creating boundaries with people, unlearning parts of yourself that you've picked up from like childhood that are like generational, like trauma and stuff like that. So yeah, it just was so amazing. In the same breath, I was journaling, and you know, like writing definitely doesn't come to me naturally, but it's one of those things as well where it like taps into like a deeper level. If you're writing, just putting kind of all of these things that are like swimming around up there, floating around in your brain. It can be quite hard to make sense of things, and it can be quite overwhelming. And so journaling was really amazing in working through my thoughts. Things come out as well that you don't even expect. Like, you'll be writing and then you'll just be like, oh, okay, don't know where that came from. But another thing that I really liked about journaling is that it's like a visual aid, and it's a visual tracker of, like, you know, how well you're doing, because inevitably you're going to be doing well. I look back now with so much pride at some of the things that I've wrote, and it's just like a really amazing way to like track your journey and your progress. And I think if you're anything like me, you can be so hard and tough on yourself, and so it gives you kind of space and distance to kind of just look at what you're doing and your progress. I think no is such a magnetic word, and just kind of learning to choose myself in every situation. I firmly believe now that you have to prioritize yourself. I'm such an overthinker, and so now I allow my body to tell me like how I'm feeling, and just like all of this feeds into just being so much more in tune with yourself and your intentions, and whether something feels good or bad. Like, there's a reason they say like listen to your gut. Your body's clever, it will tell you what it needs you to know. And then I guess like finally that leaves me with like just fake it until you make it. I'm sure you've heard people say this, but it is such an amazing, you know, thing to say, because it's so true. See her, feel her, be her, and honestly, but in like no time you will become her. Like, it's just inevitable. Like, think about how she like gets up, like what would she do, like, you know. And I think like in ways I found that a lot easier to kind of deal with some like harder situations. If I felt like I was coming across with like a challenge, like would somebody who like really loved themselves and someone that like really was living their best life and just like, you know, always go back to that vision I had of myself, is that something that she would do? No. Okay, well, that's kind of made the decision for me. So yeah, I really hope that like helps you. I kind of want to leave you with this like final thing. When I was really struggling, I had a mentor, and I was so lost and just really, really struggling. I was so broke, and I remember us kind of brainstorming like all of these ideas, and he put one up and we were going through it all, and I said, JFDI, what does JFDI mean? And he said, it means just do it. Whatever it is, just do it. There was something about that was just like so powerful, because it's like, at the end of the day, just stop holding yourself. You are the only person holding yourself back. Take total like control and like agency over the fact that like you can create the dream life that you want. It's so within it. Like, I know it feels far-fetched, but it is so within your means if you actually just like go for it, and you stop living in fear, and you stop thinking about like, you know, oh my gosh, this person's going to judge me. If you can take anything from this, I just want you to know that you are so capable of creating the life that you deserve and that you want. And until you kind of realize that, using like all the things we've discussed today, like you won't get there, and I know that you can. And so yeah, I think that's pretty much like where like everything I've got to say. It's been a long journey, but also it's happened in like the shortest space of time. Like, it's incredible, and I'm sat here today living alone, just like the happiest I've ever been. I am like the fittest and healthiest I've ever been. I just feel so fulfilled with work, and yeah, so I just really hope that there's even just like a little nugget that you can take from this. If you've got this far, thank you so much for watching. Please feel free to drop some comments down below. Maybe like tell me like what you're planning to do, or like just let me know anything. I honestly love to just like interact with you guys. Don't forget to like this video, comment and subscribe, and you can find me out on Sig Grows on all social medias, I was about to say. social media, on all socials, you know what I mean. But yeah, if you got through to the end, you are an absolute trooper, and I wish you all the best. Know your worth, goddammit. And yeah, so I wish you all the best, and I think that's everything.